used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back once again to the Necro Zoo. I am Boom. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more 2-pack to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now today we will take a look at the Joker and Punchline 2-pack. Now this was revealed a couple of months ago, so a lot of people have been anxiously anticipating this release, mostly because this is the first time in history that we will be getting a Punchline in action figure form. Once again, McFarlane doing characters that we've never had in our collections, which is awesome. You also get another Joker figure that is basically just a reuse with a different alternate Joker head, which is fine. Can't get enough Joker, so that'll be pretty sweet. But they do look rather disaffected in the packaging. But let's go ahead and take a closer look at them. But first, they do each come with your black DC Multiverse stamp. Now, of course, these are not really needed, but sometimes they do come in useful. Each one also comes with a data file card. Up first, you do have the Punchline card. On the front, you do have some images from the comics. In preparing for this 2-pack, I did look her up online a little bit. There are some pretty unique aspects to her character in the comics. Found a lot of images of her, did look up some statues just to get a little bit, better reference, a better gauge of what she represents. Definitely a little mentally unstable, but a pretty perfect pairing to be up with the Joker. Now on the back, you do have a rundown of some information on her. And once again, as I said, first time we've ever had her as a figure. As always, I will, say what I like about her and say what I don't. Definitely pretty nice to get one more female character to add to our DC Multiverse collection. Pretty nice. Now, Joker also comes with a card. One thing per usual, the card doesn't necessarily represent the figure we get. Now, here is our Joker figure, and basically it is just a reuse of the Infinite Frontier Joker, but this time you do get a different head sculpt, a different representation of the Jester of Crime. So not a bad thing to add another Joker, but we do have an abundant amount of him. So we'll hold on to that card as well. Now, minimal accessories with these two, basically I think is going to be due to the fact that she does have a lot of unique sculpt work. She is mostly, I'd have to say, about 85% brand new sculpt. But you do get a couple of things. You get this big old blade. This is like a big Bowie knife. Now, we have seen this before as well with the Infinite Frontier Joker. I think the handle was brown on that one. And in this one, you do have a black handle. And you get a blade for Punchline. Now, one thing I did find when I was, referencing her online, never really uses guns. She is more of a blade girl. A lot of, edged weapons. That is her preferred weapon to use in combat. Even some images of her with tons of different sorts of knives, throwing knives, stabbing knives. So I thought that was pretty interesting. You're not really going to find a lot of images of her with firearms, which is, cool. There is something to be enjoyed about an edged weapon, and that is that it is a more discreet and silent killer. So you definitely have to be worried about her because that is, her weapon of choice. So pretty cool. Now, once again, no alternate hands for her. I really would have preferred duplicate blades so that she could be ready with dueling blades. But I did go ahead and fix that later on. We'll take a look at it. I added an alternate hand, gave her, two blades, and I even adjusted her head sculpt. But let's quit putting it off. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at her first time in plastic form. Pretty cool, first impressions. She does represent what you see in the comics. Trying to find, certain parts of reuse on her. But the more you do that, the more you see that she does have a lot of unique sculpt work, original sculpt work. So that is always appreciated. Really jumping out of the pages of the comics. Of course, her costume is going to vary, from comic to comic. You will get variations of her costume. A little bit more of a voluptuous silhouette that she cuts in the comics, and in statues you really get that female hourglass shape. This one, I think it is hindered because of the skirt and the upper torso, but we'll get into that. Speaking of that, one of the big complaints I did hear was about her face sculpt. It was a little bit wide in the jaw. Now, as always, we have to wait till we get these figures in hand so you could take a closer look and see what you would like to change. But for the most part, if you do not have a Punchline figure, this is the first one you're ever going to have in your collection. She does, do a good job to represent the source material. Another thing I heard was a lot of people saying, well, she's not even smiling or anything like that. But a lot of the images in the comics, she's, not so happy. She has more of a solemn feel where she's not, really laughing a lot. She's pretty serious compared to, I guess, her counterpart, which would be Harley Quinn. So definitely goes with the other side of the Joker's personality, which of course could be infinite. But as far as head sculpts go, you do have, she does hit all the marks. Some color in her hair, some blue there. She got those straight bangs, which is definitely a choice. And she has some long, strands of hair as sideburns on the side, which really accentuate her face. All in all, pretty nice Punchline head sculpt. Let's take a look at the articulation. She can look down. She can look up really well. Pretty nice range there on the head sculpt. You have right to left. And of course, you can tilt her head for some attitude. Pretty awesome. Now, moving down, as I said, she does have a lot of unique sculpt. The upper torso is definitely a new sculpt. I would have to say that the midsection of her is probably a reuse from one of the Catwoman. And you do have the skirt, which is another thing that it's really hard to get it to be skin tight. Now, if this was a skin tight skirt, you could definitely see it would like show off her curves. But since this is, you have to make this in a physical, action figure, it does look a little bit wide, but that does allow for some articulation. So we'll take a look at that later on. Let's take a look at her waist articulation. You do have side to side. You have that full tilt-a-whirl, lower waist swivel, upper chest swivel, and you can twist her, get her in some action poses. She does have a slight front crunch. Very minimal, but it is there. Of course, you can lean her back per usual with McFarlane figures. So great waist articulation. Get her in a T pose, arms above the head. Very smooth there. Take a look at the shoulder. You do have that socket and bushing shoulder joint, which gives you a lot of range of movement. Up and down, front to back, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. Look really nice. Now, although the upper arm can be probably reused from another figure, once you get to the elbow and you go down, this is original sculpt. You can see the flesh, cut out from the sculpt going down into the wrist. Now, this was rather interesting the way they went with this. They did give her this little balm, sort of like a laughing Joker balm, and it is permanently adhered to her palm. Now, I do get it. You don't want this little piece, floating around, easy to lose, more than likely something to do with child safety. Although we do know adult collectors are really the target market for this. So I would have preferred if they would have made it separate, but this could also be a problem, of fixing it to her hand. This way it doesn't fall out. You can move it around. So you take the good with the bad. You still get the four ways of articulation from McFarlane. So pretty cool little accessory. Gives her a little bit of something different in figure photography. But I really wish, they would have just made it separate or at least given her an alternate hand. On the other side, you have the same thing, but you do have an open gripping hand. So all in all, I could live with it. Not, a deal breaker. It is pretty well executed. Let's go down to her thighs. She does have a generous thigh swivel. Now, what this allows is for her to move her leg from side to side without a thigh cut. It definitely works well. Now, she can kick up pretty good and kick back as well. The skirt is split on the sides, which allows for this, movement without damaging the skirt. But in turn, that also makes it a little bit wider than I would like. Bend her knee. She got that McFarlane hip swivel, double jointed knees, straighten her out, up and down at the ankle, right to left, and rocker. Now, rather interesting, she does not have toe articulation. I do have to think this is about the third or fourth figure that does not come with toe articulation. It is very rare. It can help in standing her because, the feet won't, that little part of the toe articulation won't move up. So that kind of stabilizes her a little bit. But now that it is gone, I do kind of miss it a little. I do kind of miss it, but that's fine. That's not a big deal. Taking a look at her lower body, it is all brand new sculpt. You can tell this because the laces for her high boots are sculpted in. Really nice blue color and contrast. Really pops with the rest of her outfit. Another thing that is sculpted in is the cut of the thigh boots is at a point. It is not round. Like Catwoman and Supergirl, all of those had a round boot cut, but hers are sculpted out at a point. Very happy with it. At least it is definitely original sculpt. Take a look at her from the bottom. No tread and no identifying marks. Moving up the back, pretty clean, soft sculpt work. Getting into the booty. Now it is covered by the skirt. You can kind of, stick it out a little bit so it's there. A lot of this has to do, as I said, with the way the skirt is designed to still give her articulation and movement to, free movement for her legs. So it's really hard to get that to be, skin tight, which is the way it looks in the comics. Moving up the back, not much to talk about until you get to the top of her head. You do have her little ponytail. She does have those hair ties, a nice little accent, and she does have some pink paint at the tip of her ponytail, which is nice. All in all, pretty good figure. I mean, the main thing about this is, to finally have her to use in figure photography and displays. One thing I want to bring up is that usually when you get your 2-pack, you do have the black stands, or sometimes you even have the accessories and they're stuck on to the backdrop that in the packaging that they come with. This is the first time that I know of, that I can remember, that we get the backdrop and you can remove it and you can use it to display her or take some figure photography. It is like a Gotham City street scene. I thought it was cool to not have to damage it to take out all of the parts and be able to use it later on as a backdrop for your figures. Oh, let's get into some of the changes I did. Well, first off, let's check out the scale. She does scale well with this Joker. So she's a, medium-sized female figure. Now, I did want to look at her head sculpt. The jaw being a little bit wide. I'm not sure why they did this. And what I did notice was it was so thick that McFarlane heads, you can sometimes heat them up and, remold the chin a little bit, like push it in. But you could not do it with her because it was so thick. The plastic wouldn't allow you to squeeze it. So I took a deep dive and I I jumped in, and what I did was use my Dremel to cut out some of the plastic around her jawline. Now, once I did this, it did allow me to heat it up a little bit and squish her chin in a little bit so it wouldn't be so, angular. Give it a little bit more of a point. Now, I was able to accomplish this, and if you look at them side by side, you can tell the original version had more of a wider jaw, while now that I've done the mod to her, she has a little bit more of a point, just a little bit more of a, feminine look and matching a little bit better with the comics. So that was the first change I made to her. Now, another thing I wanted to do was add an alternate hand. I recently did my custom Harley Quinn, and this was the hand that I removed from her. It was her left gripping hand. So I just painted it up, added the little circle design that she has on her hand. This allows her to hold various accessories and doesn't pigeonhole her into just holding that little bomb. So I had her, holding a card, took some, little pictures with that. But I also wanted her to have two little knives. So I found these two matching knives and I added them to her as well. With the alternate gripping hand, she was able to wield two weapons, which once again is a simple little thing that McFarlane could do just to give us a little bit more options in figure photography. I even made up another open gesturing hand, which is some of the fun that you can have with these figures. Changing them a slight bit to make them more what you would like to see, and definitely not anything difficult or hard as far as customizing goes. So, anyways, guys, really happy to finally add her to my collection. I do have various Jokers that I will be able to match her up with. Maybe even put her in a little photo shoot with Harley Quinn just to have some fun. But you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
So, anyways, guys, pretty cool. So, anyway.